Thanks for joining me as we end out another successful school year and we start our planning for the coming year. As we all know, once the end of grade data results are in and the bottom line is signed, we either spend our time whining and complaining or we get on to the next year and we make the improvements that are necessary to make our students more successful, to make our teachers more effective, and to make our school a better place for all who walk its hallways each day. If you will allow me to share my screen, I will show you a quick visual of what I've put together from data collected from sources such as EBOS, the North Carolina Report Card, teacher working conditions surveys, in-house surveys, and conversations with teachers. In order to look at those pieces that make the puzzle work and to complete that puzzle for the coming year, there were some framework pieces that evolved as the data was collected. These three areas are human resources, leadership, and the physical setting. We will start with the physical setting, even though it's third on the list, because it's the one we can do the least about. As you are aware, our school is made up of buildings that are separated by sidewalks. And at any given time during the day, our students and our teachers are on those sidewalks exposed to the world around them. What we can do is to make sure we minimize the number of trips that students take between buildings. We monitor during transition times. We're careful and watchful in the environment through our windows, and we report the things that are alarming to us. We need to be prepared for emergency situations by reading, understanding, and questioning the safety procedures. We do not know when something will happen, and we need to be prepared as best we can in the event that something does. And I hope that never happens. The first part I'd like to talk about that we can do something about are our human resources. After reviewing the end of grade results and the trends over several years, the following needs have been identified. We need professional development regarding multi-tiered classroom settings. How do we make our lessons rigorous and challenging at all levels? Following the trends in the data as reported by DPI, it is obvious that our upper level students are in great need. We do a lot for our lower end students. We provide tutoring courses, we give extra work, we spend more one-on-one time, and we tend to just believe that our upper level students will take care of themselves. But the facts show that this is not always the case and that they also need some special attention. We need to focus some of our PLC work on the piece of that says, what do we do when they have it? It's not another worksheet. It's not 10 more problems to do. Those students who have mastered the objectives need to be involved in some application of the objectives in order to challenge those students and to make them hungry for the next piece of the puzzle. We need to make sure that we're having data available in easy formats to understand, and that all of our teachers understand how to use that data to drive instruction. The third piece of our framework involves leadership. I'd like to talk about our teacher leaders first. Reviewing the teacher working conditions survey indicates that teachers are in need of teacher empowerment. We can do that by celebrating the accomplishments of teachers. Our teachers should be held up to our students as role models, and students should know that their teachers are involved in learning, that their teachers are involved in helping the community, and that their teachers are involved in those things that make them better individuals so that they can bring that role modeling to the school classroom. We need more active participation in the school improvement team through communication with team representatives and attendants. Teachers need to understand that even though they are not the team representative, they can attend any and all of the school improvement team meetings that they want to. It's an open forum, and we need to encourage teachers to do that, particularly when there are concerns. What can administration do for us? According to the data gathered, we as teachers need increased feedback from observations that can be utilized in the classroom. As we are with our students, it is not enough to just say, nice job. It's great to hear, but we need those pieces of information that would lead us to be better at what we do. We need to maintain school order regarding discipline. These percentages have been very high, and teachers have been very pleased with the quick response and the consistent response of administration with discipline issues. This needs to continue, even though the process may be tiring. As we look at the second half of this visual, the arrows indicate that all of these things work together. The double-ended arrows mean that it does not matter which direction these pieces go in. They are necessary for the effectiveness and overall success of the school. Let's talk about parent involvement first. It is true that at Waccamaw, it has consistently been more than 95% on the results in the teacher working conditions survey that parents are involved in the school. However, the parents may not be involved in the ways that we'd like to have them involved. We need to tap into their resources. We need to tap into the knowledge that they bring to the table, and we need to make them feel appreciated and needed as active participants. Again, one of the areas where we see some loss of growth is in our higher end students. At the beginning of the school year, we should, as a school, invite all of the parents of students that are identified as academically and intellectually gifted to a special meeting that explains what that program is about, why that program exists, and what the consequences are for not adhering to the rules and bylaws that are written. I know that I have found it difficult to explain to a parent that their child must be placed on academic probation when academic probation was not anything they'd ever been told about. I believe that the students and the parents both would be more of an active part in the classroom activities and making sure that that assignments are completed, that projects are completed, if they truly understood what the program was about. It is more than just thinking that their kids are really smart. We have lots of really smart kids. But there are bylaws written, upheld by federal law, that must be followed when students have been identified. We can also do this for all of our students by having a grade level night early in September, once the newness has worn off of coming back to school. Parents need to know what the grade level expectations are. They need to see a list of the math objectives and realize just how many of those there are. They need to understand the importance of daily reading and perhaps be encouraged to make it a 20-minute activity for the entire family. At this time, we could also talk to them about the convenience of Dojo and how quick that is to respond when the only thing you need is your telephone. We need to encourage parents also to constantly check the PowerSchool portal. It not only keeps them up to date on students' grades instead of waiting until the 11th hour before report cards come out, but it keeps the teachers accountable for making sure that the portal is updated and grades go in on a timely basis. Connected with this is just the communication between our school and our stakeholders. We need to make sure that master calendars are updated and that one is always at hand with the front desk secretary. By having the secretary be able to answer questions about where games are located and what time games start and whether or not the certain groups are meeting after school. Instead of calling into a classroom and asking those questions, an on-hand calendar would prove useful, not only to her to get through phone calls quickly, but to the parents so that they don't become frustrated with having to wait for an answer. To make that possible, those teachers who are sponsors or coaches or parts of different groups must provide the front desk with the information needed about after-school groups or groups that are staying for tutoring or changes in sports plans. Students feel appreciated and want to be parts of things when they realize that the people who are important to them, their teachers, are attending their school functions. Too many of our kids have parents who just can't make it for one reason or another. But a student that sees a teacher in the audience that can talk to them about their performance the next day is a proud student. I enjoy attending school functions, and I think that we need to encourage all teachers to attend as many school functions as possible. So who are our students? We need to embrace the diversity that we have. The gaps in our learning are not issues of race between blacks and whites. We have a growing number of Hispanic students. We have a wonderful ESL department that works with those students diligently and tirelessly. And we need to embrace those students and appreciate those people who work with them. Perhaps the biggest gap we have in our students is with those who are economically disadvantaged. There is nothing more hurtful than to see projects assigned and awarded that depend on a family being able to afford the materials to complete the project. We need to be mindful of our out-of-school projects, that the materials are either provided or that the project is just taken care of in school where the playing field is even regarding the advantages of having some money. We have a high percentage of economically disadvantaged students, and we need to be aware that it may not be that they didn't want to do the project. There may simply not be the resources they need to complete it. So what do we do with those projects? Well, if we maximize class time, bell-to-bell instruction, as we've heard said many times, we can work those projects into our classroom activities and put more focus on what we can control than what we have to leave to chance. But projects don't just need to be something that's just thrown together. Projects and lessons need to be rigorous, but all lessons need to include the extension for that student who gets it. Whenever information is sent home to parents, we need to make sure that a Spanish version is available. One of the things that I noticed this year through end of grade testing is that those tests are cumulative. And I've always known that. I did not just figure that out this year. But I reflected on how much cumulative testing I did during the school year. And the only cumulative testing I had was the benchmark testing provided by the county. We need to make sure that our students are in constant review and that it is not a marathon at the last 2 weeks of school to make sure that they've seen those objectives again. I think that particularly in the areas of math, this will jump us to the next level. This will bring those level 3s up to level 4s, and perhaps even the level 4s to the level 5s. It may be the boost that a level 2 needs so that trying to remember it all at one time is not too overwhelming. Constant review would help them learn it along the way. For teachers, I think that teachers need to continue to be learners because you cannot understand the pangs of homework, the requirements of reading, the difficulty of writing, unless you yourself are involved in those activities. Again, we need to celebrate the accomplishments of teachers and let the students know and the rest of the staff know when those classes are being taken. We have lots of teachers involved in courses to finish out certifications or to gain new certifications. And every person on staff needs to be aware that those teachers are learners and encouraged to be learners themselves, learners of any type of activity. We need to also be mindful that the amount of work does not mean that there is an increase in rigor. More is not necessarily better. When tutoring is offered, tutoring cannot be a repeat of the classroom lesson. The students didn't get it that way the first time. We need to plan for tutoring and have it available in a way that perhaps that learner who just needs to hear it differently has a chance to pick up those objectives. We need to use our data resources, such as EVOS, the North Carolina Report Card, NCDPI, and the Teacher Working Condition Survey, to inform not only the teachers themselves, but to have them involved in qualitative and quantitative data to drive their instruction. There are many cases where I just can't remember which report it is I need to look at in EVOS. It leads to a question of another teacher, which leads to an academic conversation. We need to encourage those conversations. While data drives our instructions, we cannot forget that we work with children and that every child needs an advocate, whether it is a teacher standing up for a class of students or for one student in particular, or just being that person who lends a voice to someone who may not be able to speak for themselves. We need to remember our purpose and make sure that we are doing what's right for kids, even if it gets us in a little bit of hot water along the way. In this document that goes along with the visual are the details of where those pieces came from. I would be happy to share this document with you. As you can see, it is quite lengthy, and no one wants to try and dissect all of those pieces on their own. But I would be happy to talk with you about it and share the information reported in the visual with you. Thank you so much for listening, and let's work together to make next year the best year for the Waccamaw Eagles. Thanks.